So tonight we're gonna make a little classic Bolognese. What better, we got a bunch of people in town. So what a better way to feed a big group with some classic Bolognese. So fairly simple little recipe here. I use 3 types of meats, ground chuck, ground pork, and then I do an hot Italian sausage. And I'll brown those, I'll show those in a minute. I take some prosciutto, cut it thick, and then I dice it. So that's the first level of flavor that goes in. And then I also will do celery and onion, dice those. We've got about a cup of each, or just about a cup and a half of the onion, cup of the celery, another cup of the diced carrots, and I'll do some shallots. So what I want to get going first here is I'll start to cook down the carrots, celery, and onions together, and then I'll start browning the meat. So here we've got about 2 pounds of beef here, and then we got about a pound of pork, and then about a pound of the Italian sausage. So let's get this going. I'll mix it all up. So to get this going, I use ultimately I'm going to put it all in this cast iron skillet or kettle, but I will do the browning of the meat in different layers. But the way I'll do it is I'll start with the prosciutto and get a nice sear on it. So I put a little olive oil at the bottom of this and get a good sear, because I actually want that to cook and maybe crisp up just a little bit. And then I'll start with the pork in this other pan and get that going. So I start to cook the meat first, or at least get part of it cooked first before I start the vegetables. So I got the pork and sausage browning up in this one skillet. The other one, I've got the prosciutto cooked down and it's got a good crisp and char to it, so I pull that aside. And I'm going to glaze this, starting with some carrots and some shallots in here. I'm going to start getting those carrots, take a little longer, kind of cook down a little bit. And I like to get those shallots going in there, gets a little bit of flavor with those carrots. So we'll start with those and just start cooking those down just a little bit before we get the celery, carrots in there. So there's a little bit of grease left over from the prosciutto, which is perfect. So we'll just kick this down for a minute or two before we get going. So you can see the onion mixture, carrots and celery, all cooking down really nicely. In the separate skillet, I've been browning this meat. So the next flavor is this tomato paste. So I'll put some tomato paste in here, get that going, and sear the meat with some of that tomato paste, and deglaze it with some wine here in a minute. But I want to incorporate that tomato paste in with the meat first of all. So I'll do that with both the beef and the pork before it goes in the onion mixture. So just working this in, browning it at the same time, gives you a little extra flavor. And then, like I say, once it's cooked in here just a little bit, I'll put a little wine in there to deglaze it and give it a little bolder flavor. So you got the hamburger that's incorporated with that tomato paste, and then I'll deglaze this by throwing a little bit of wine in there. Maybe about a half to a full cup of wine, maybe a little more. So start reducing that with the beef. And while I'm going, I will put salt and pepper, layers of salt and pepper in here just to give it some flavor. So here's the pork, been cooked down a little bit. Then I put the tomato paste in there, just like I did it with the beef. And continue to put a sear on it. And just before it goes into that other pot, I'll mix another cup of wine. And you can get relatively cheap wine, that's what I do. And just get it good and worked into that pork and tomato paste to just keep adding flavors. So you got the pork and the hamburger all combined with that vegetable mixture. And you got the wine and the tomato paste. So you can see the next step was to put this, I got a couple cups of beef broth that I put together. So get that in there, cooking down. So cook all that together, and then I'll put a little more wine on there. So by the time it's all said and done, I got almost a whole bottle of wine in this thing. And I'll cook that down just for a little bit longer before I put the crushed tomatoes in. All right, it's the last step here, and I'm gonna put a little more salt and pepper, put some layers of that on there, but I put the crushed tomatoes in here, one whole can of the crushed tomatoes. Incorporate that, and then just let it start cooking together here for a good couple hours would be the best, but you know, get it good and hot and it's ready to go. But the longer you let it cook, the more flavor that it develops. Okay, this has been cooking for maybe a couple hours on real low, and you can see this has come together very beautifully. That meat sauce, look at how gorgeous that looks. All right, so we're gonna put a little rigatoni with this. That's what I usually do with it, a little rigatoni. But if you wanna make your own homemade pasta, that's even better, is homemade pasta. But we're gonna dish this up, and then we're gonna give a little bit of a sample here for the folks that are visiting from out of town. You can see the beautiful meat sauce. Made this with a little bruschetta here tonight, but you can see a very hearty Italian dish. It's perfect for a big family, and you'll love it. Delicious.